Here we are jumping in and taking a look at how Charles Schulz deals with his feet and shoes. And then, of course, it'll be good to just get a sense of how we can probably use this for our own characters, maybe with a bit of tweaking, because sometimes we demand a higher standard of ourselves than these legendary world-famous cartoonists. So looking first at this, obviously I love the way Schulz has literally gone with artistic license. I mean, there's no perspective here at all. What bit of Snoopy's doghouse are we looking at? He's leaning against the side, but he's not leaning against it. He's kind of almost leaning in midair, but we give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he's leaning against the doghouse. And then the same with the feet. We're not seeing anything of the side of the feet. We're just seeing the soles like that. And you can see there's a little hint of the far leg there, but then this leg completely crosses over the body and saves Schulz all the hassle of trying to figure out where the knees are, where the belly is, how much he needs to draw. So we can be kinder to ourselves sometimes. The useful thing here is I often do use this technique of just drawing the base of the foot. And then what I'll do is I'll just put in a little hint of the side of the shoe. So if you've got a shoe like this and you've got a little hint of the side, you can end up with a sole like that. So that gives you a hint of the sole that immediately just gives you an extra facet. And then also if you're dealing with shoes which have heels, then you can put in the heel shape like that. And you can use different lines so here I'm using horizontal, and then the rest of the sole could use straight, and straight away you have got a sense of a bit of a shoe. So we've got, if this were a sneaker, we've got that kind of the edge of the sneaker there, which is giving us a little bit of dimension straight away, and then we've got the sense of a heel and the ball of the foot. So this is how I adapt this lovely simple technique of Schulz's, just to give it a little bit more sophistication and a little bit more depth to each shoe. Okay, let us go and take a look at this. So Schulz is a genius, as we all know. What I love about this is, yes, he just uses the banana feet. Let me put this onto a new layer of its own. So he uses this sort of banana-shaped sole. He doesn't worry about, oh, this bit's flat, and he doesn't even make it touch the ground. You can see we've got this tiny little line there at the toe, which gives that impression that he's just rolled his foot off there. This one doesn't even touch the ground. So he really does rely on this banana-y look, and he gets away with it every single time. So don't be too hung up about exactly how the feet must work. You too can use banana soles. And as I showed you in the last thing, sometimes what I do is, because often my character is in sneakers, so I just put a line like that, and sometimes I'll put these lines like this to give a sense of verticality there. The shoelaces are really helpful for getting a sense of a bend, curving around the top of the shoe. So I never use actual bows like Schulz does. I just tend to use the lace pattern, the pattern of the laces, but curving it around like that is a real help. So sometimes just adding a little bit extra to each shoe like this, and giving the sense of vertical lines by using a bit of hatching like that can give you, again, a more sophisticated look. And if you wanted to, if you kind of thought, okay, this foot here rather than that, you could say, what if this foot we can see a little bit of the sole like that? You can go in and do that, and then you can see now we've got the edge of the sole like this, and we've got the underside of the shoe. I'm just going to erase the black lines underneath, and you can see with just those few little lines we've created a more sophisticated shoe, more like a sneaker, less like just a banana. But we've got the edge of the shoe there, we've got the underside of the shoe. It works really well. Then in terms of old Snoopy, his feet are pretty standard compared to everybody else's, all the human characters. So what I do notice is always this little bend out towards behind the level of the lower leg, and that is very much what does happen in human anatomy. So we tend to ignore it, or I often want to ignore it, but the reality is that the heel does stick out a little bit behind like that. So that's something to remember. And then, as you know, Schultz he either uses shoelaces or patterns, or Snoopy gets his little claws, but that's about it. Let me leave that there for you. I'll get rid of this. Okay, final one, adding in a new layer, getting rid of these ones behind. What have I just done? Okay, so here we go. Okay, first things first here is Sally. And so human feet with Snoopy or with Charles Schultz, he always has them kind of either pointing to the left, and they kind of overlap each other like this. Oh, before I go on, let's just go back a moment here. So the genius of Schultz, as I was saying. So you can see here, the where the shoe, this heel is slightly closer to us than this toe, okay? That is Schultz's genius, the sense that one foot is closer to us than the other foot, or that, you know, that they're kind of shuffling back and forth. And he doesn't use quite exactly the same bend in his banana-y things. You know, they're slightly asymmetrical, so it's not the exact same banana that he uses. And that is just, I guess, what made him a world-class cartoonist. Okay, so again here you can see flat. Goodness, if I could just work in the right layer, it would be such a help to me. Okay, so flat like this, and then round, sticking out a little bit behind the foot. I would put a curve into those laces. This one you can see it's not directly in front. It's slightly up and round like that, and that's what gives the impression of one foot being behind the other. Exactly the same here, flat like that, out a little bit at the back. This one a little bit above and behind like that. And then we've got our, I think these have got a kind of a Mary Jane type shoe loop or gap. But I just use laces because I use quite standard sneakery kind of things, and it is useful to stick to something quite simple. Okay, in terms of feet, so the thing to notice here, again, a very standard kind of foot, and weirdly, if you think about it, totally inaccurate. You know, he's got a lot sticking out the back here, then he's got the toes. Where does he put them? Kind of anywhere-ish. The one that's interesting to me is this one at the back. So he does this banana-y thing coming round, and then this where the foot kind of curves, the leg crosses over a little bit. So if we're wanting to get a shoe like this, and we've got a toe coming round, we might have a sneaker like this, and then we need to get the foot into the sneaker. So that's kind of how you end up doing it. You put in a little circle for the foot to go into the sneaker, and then you bring the leg out like this, and that gives you that sense of how to create a shoe from this funny looking little foot. Okay, so just in terms of having the foot go into the shoe as opposed to, you need to create that sense of the leg being in front and the shoe being behind, and this is how I do it. Okay, so you can kind of slow down and replay the video to get that bit. All right, so those are our 3 Charlie Browns for now, and that is it for this video.